All right, YouTube, thanks for tuning in. Slingin Dirt Media here in the shop with David Spille. David, we're back, man. Appreciate you having us again.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming out. I know we've rescheduled once or twice, I think now or whatnot, but yeah, it worked out, and glad to share a little bit of info.
Yeah, so you said you've been doing this for a while, so we should have some stories here. This shouldn't be a hard deal to come up with some stories, right?
No, I've got. I definitely could sit and bench a race for a long time. That's for sure. It's been a pretty long ride. I think we were just talking. If I'm not mistaken, this will be the 33rd season that I've raced. Coming up.
33 years out of 41.
I'll be 41 in July. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
So there's some good times and some bad times in there.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of just wondering why you still do it sometimes, and questioning choices as far as picking the right hobby and things like that.
Hey,
so,
we never claim to be smart here,
yeah,
or Einsteins, but we have fun, right?
Yeah, you hear it pretty much from every racer. I mean, once you start doing this stuff, it's hard to get it out of your system.
It's a bad drug.
I wish I had some money or a dollar every time I've heard different racers at the track saying they were retiring or this is the last year they're running, and there's a ton of them, and I'm guilty of that as well. I've said, my dad and I have both said multiple times, we're done, and here we are.
A year or two later, we're right back.
Exactly.
At it. I think that me being able to stay out of it is because I've stayed involved with it. As soon as I quit driving, then I got roped into working at the track. So it's not like I kind of don't feel like I left. I do, but I don't, I don't get to have as much fun.
Yeah.
But it doesn't cost me as much money either.
Well, it's bad, like you said, when you're not racing and you still go to the racetrack. Because I'm guilty of that as well. My wife and I like to go out and do a lot of stuff, and we do. But as far as staying away from the racetrack for a while, it usually doesn't last very long.
Right.
If we're not racing at Lawrenceburg, I used to find myself going over to Florence and watching, or vice versa when I was racing at Florence.
Okay, so that leads to a question I was going to ask, because I've talked to a lot of guys, and a lot of people have told me, racers say if they're not racing, they don't want to go. It's like it bothers them that they can't be out there, but like you say, hey, I still go and watch, even if I can't,
Well, I think it's kind of scenario too. Like this year, we had a motor problem at the end of the year when we went over to try to run the mod portion of the north-south, and I had to sit out for a week at Lawrenceburg just because couldn't get engine parts and things like that, and we were trying to be there, but it just didn't work out, and didn't go down to Lawrenceburg and run just because I didn't, or go down and watch, just because I didn't really want to see what was going on, and kind of thought maybe if I stayed away it'd be better or something, But the last race of the year, we kind of had hung it up by then, and Lawrenceburg's last race of the year is a USAC show, and they don't run points, and I did go down and watch that one.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to, because I'm definitely going to see some racing this year at the Berg that I wouldn't normally get to see. So I'm a little bit excited about that.
Yeah, somebody was just asking me the other day about the World Outlaw show, because obviously Larson and them guys show up. Stewart showed up in the pits and stuff last year and had a bunch of attention around him, and Christopher Bell and them guys. Yeah. There's some pretty big names popping in there, obviously. So that race is usually pretty cool to check out.
Yeah, it was. What year was it? One of the years I went to the Gateway Nationals and got to see the year. I guess it was the first year they had the USAC sprints there, and getting to see some of those guys and some of the buzz that they have. That place just has a different atmosphere in general. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's one I'd like to go watch. That seems like a race that's a lot more fun to watch than be a part of or whatnot.
Yeah.
I know a lot of racers from around here go down and do that, and just kind of make it a little short vacation type deal. And
it's nice to break it up in the middle of winter, and you can go and be racing inside where it's kind of somewhat climate controlled. It's not like you're freezing, but
one of the other ones my dad and I have talked about is I'd like to make it out and watch the Chili Bowl one time.
I've always had that on my bucket list too.
That seems like obviously a cool event. It's gotten a lot more attention, just like everything else the last however many years with the NASCAR guys.
And the names that are in it bringing the attention to.
Exactly. And it it looks like a pretty good time.
Yeah.
So,
What about speed weeks?
I've been
Florida.
down to the modified portion one time. We went to East Bay and watched in I think like 2005, and thought about it a couple times on taking our car down back then, but it's just tough, man. I mean, when I was down there, I remember seeing they had a huge dumpster on site where people would just toss bumpers in it because it was just so much carnage every night
Now,
and things like
it seems
that.
to me, I don't know if it seems this way. You tell me. It seems like in the years past, maybe I don't know when this changed, maybe 10 years ago. It seemed like East Bay was, man, you had to have like a complete spare everything to, because everything had to be replaced by the end of the week. But it doesn't seem like it's that bad anymore.
No, I think you're right. I did kind of notice that myself too. That the last couple of years that I've watched, it doesn't seem like they tear nowhere near as much stuff up as they
you
used
had to have a whole nother transmission, rear ends, and whole bodies already made up.
When I was down there in '05, everybody pretty much had 2 cars there, even in the modified guys, because that's what we were there watching, and it was bad. I mean, it was nothing but
carnage,
beating and banging. Yeah,
yeah. I don't think they beat and bang anything like what they used to. But
No.
I mean, that place has put on some good shows too.
For sure.
So back to locally here in Cincinnati area. Let's say, what would you say has been your biggest win?
Win wise, honestly, for as long as I've been doing it, it's the win tally is nowhere near like you would hope it would be. I mean, we've won these tracks showcased up here on the table. We've won at every one of them except for actually Moeller. I won a couple heat races out there. I finished second at late model a couple times there, but
maybe change that this year.
Yeah, I'd like to get out there some this year.
It
just is. My son started racing go-karts last year at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So that
there's your Friday night.
Yeah, I was gonna say that basically throws a wrench in everything. So, but as far as biggest wins, I mean, just all of them are pretty cool, honestly. I think the one that sticks out, I think, is one of the last mod races I ran at Florence. I've run a couple times since then, but 2006. I think it was Kramer and I had a pretty good race going on, and we wound up pulling it out or whatnot, and. At the end of the year, Florence always gives you like a printout of what happens. We wound up winning the track championship over there that year, and I think there was 52 modifieds there that night, or 51, something crazy. There was like 50 mods there, and just hearing those kind of numbers, and even
in guys like Kramer too. I mean, back in you talk about the mid 2000s. I mean, he was tough to beat wherever he went.
Yeah, he was really good right at that time. He was doing and starting that Battle of the Bluegrass mod series when they had that going on with the late model stuff and that too, and we were pretty good right around that year, and that's one that sticks out. Obviously running second a few years back, quite a few years now. 2016 or 17, we ran second in the Merrill Downey, and wish that one was a couple laps longer because we were one of the better cars at the end, and that was a pretty big deal too.
Now,
to run second in that.
I seen on was it a Facebook picture a few days ago. You made one of the north souths in the late model.
Yeah, that was actually my rookie season in the late model.
And that's a tough feat right there.
Yeah, that was back in the days when there was 90 to 100 plus cars showing up for that deal, and you don't. I've had quite a, the time I've been doing this stuff, you start forgetting about some of that stuff, and then seeing it in front of you and kind of reminiscing, I guess you'd say, a little bit or whatnot.
It's like, oh yeah, this is back in the day. This is pretty cool.
You start looking at some of the names and stuff that were in there. It's pretty neat to.
Some of those guys ain't even racing anymore, but it's still like when you're in the same field with John Gill and Wendell Wallace, and those were guys that was right there with you.
Yeah, that's funny you said that, because then even years after that, I remember Gill being like a local guy for a while at Florence, and that was just times have changed for sure.
Sure. So you picked up another championship. How many championships do we have now?
I won at Florence in 2006 in the mods, and 3 down at Lawrenceburg in the last 5 years in the modified down there. I had one a year or two before the first one at Lawrenceburg wrapped up, and 3 or 4 laps left to go in the race. I broke a right front ball joint, or snapped a lower ball joint in the car.
Yeah.
Full speed in the turn.
Ouch.
3 at the Berg. That was,
Yeah.
as long as I've been doing this, that was I've got pictures of it. Ripped the front clip basically off the car and
Ouch.
ripped the shifters out of the center console of the cockpit and everything. So it was that one hurt for a while.
That one hurt. Yeah.
So it should have been 4 technically. Yeah. That one was a heartbreaker just because it should have never really came down to the last night or whatnot. Right. But
it's tough. I feel like it's tough. I mean, I obviously I wouldn't know, but it's like those nights that it comes down and you lose it by that one night. It's like, well, what could you have done different earlier in the season than it wouldn't have came down to that one night, you know?
Yeah, well, with the people I've had around me, with my father and Alan Fry, the guy that's been helping me for 25 years, I can count pretty much on 1 or 2 hands the amount of mechanical stuff that we ever really have go wrong. So it's tough when something silly like that happens to you or whatnot.
I can always remember your cars have always stayed pretty clean. I mean, they haven't always been real flashy either. You know, you're kind of plain, clean, simple. I don't mean to say plain as in just clean and simple, you know?
Yeah, I think like anybody, there was a little phase there when I was younger where, you know,
flashy was in the late model days.
Flames and things like that were a popular deal. And I don't know, I just anymore, I feel like it gets to the point with some of these wraps, it gets a little much where you can even tell who's on the car and things like that.
I've always thought a good rule of thumb was 10 feet and 10 miles an hour. If you're 10 feet away and you can't read it, then, you know, what's the sense of putting in the extra 5 colors for something like that? It gets too busy and there's too much there.
Yeah, and I kind of got to the philosophy, too, or whatnot, where the wraps and stuff obviously aren't cheap either. Yeah. So and the modifieds can be a pretty wild class at times. So when you're nobody wants to put bodies and wraps on multiple times a year or anything like that.
I mean, I know there's guys that probably do it once a year. You know, they got a big race coming up, so they want to clean it up and make it look good for this big event. But it's like, man, you definitely don't want to go doing wraps multiple times a year in one season if you don't have to, you know.
I've always had my dad kind of in the background on that too, because he constantly would remind me, you know, the decals and the bodies. I mean, obviously the body's got to be aero worthy or whatever you want to call it, but the wrap's not winning any races. It's the stuff going on underneath of it.
Now,
so
did I see some pictures of somebody actually doing some hand stuff?
Yeah, that was the first.
That was a younger David.
That was the first mod that we ever had. Quick story: when we got out of the go-kart deal, and it was the go-kart stuff was kind of getting dangerous fast at the end. We got into some road course stuff at the tail end of my karting days, and it was pretty wild. I mean, that could be a whole another segment probably in itself. But But when we got into the mod stuff, first car was something he
sounds good. I hear somebody cracking one open over there.
We got a viewer in the background, I guess. First mod that we wound up getting, we paid like $200, like a bare frame, just trying to scrounge stuff together basically. Right. And my father was always pretty artistic and things like that, so we stenciled out numbers. The lettering on the side was, you know, he kind of mocked that up and did it or whatnot. So I filled in the numbers themselves and just, I mean, that was kind of, back then, guys were actually still kind of, it was, believe it or not, that's showing my age of being in this stuff, as guys were still hand lettering cars back then.
I remember my first one I did myself. I stenciled out cardboard and traced it out with electrical tape, and that was the trim number and stuff.
Yeah, it was the vinyl machines really hadn't hit the market yet. So
I think I did that for like a year or so, and then actually John Whitney he did my first actual decals I had on a car on an old Super Dirt. He did so.
Yeah, I remember the first couple sets of decals that we did do like that. They were pretty plain and simple, just basic colors and nothing too exciting.
Right. So you've went mods, late models, back to mods. Do you have a preference on the two? Which do you like better?
The late models are definitely fun to drive. It's a top class. People pay attention to that obviously because of the prestige or whatever you want to call it with them. They're fast.
They got big tires.
Exactly. But the mod is definitely
more affordable.
More affordable, and I always felt like the mod is more of a
challenge.
It's more of a handful than the late models are. I haven't driven a late model since 2014, I guess now. So I think they drive fairly the same, and I think they may be even a little bit better, just as hooked up as they are right now. And you got to drive everything, that, but the mods. That tire size difference is a big deal.
It's a big deal. I mean, your reaction times, your throttle reaction time, your braking time, you get so much more meat on the track to affect the car and the way it handles.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is the mods, they've continued to kind of let them get more out of control over the years, but there's still, like you said, the brakes aren't nowhere near what a late model is. There's still things that separate them, obviously. The tire, like we said, is a big deal between the two.
So speaking of tires, where do you see, man, I know there's tire shortages across the board. I hear late model guys every day, they're wanting this or wanting to do that. What about mod tires? Is there an advantage, or, the American racers, is that something you think we'll end up seeing eventually in this area in the mods?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, obviously right here in our area, the American racers have never been really super popular. Hoosier's got a pretty good lock on the area. It's like there's a
dividing line there. It's like farther south, it's American Racer. North, the Hoosier.
Yeah.
So it's like we're right at that, Mason-Dixon line. So.
Yeah, it's just kind of the whole tire deal itself. I mean, that was kind of the thing that was nice about the mods is at one point you really weren't allowed to do much to them, and now
Here we are.
they change the rules. It seems like every couple years, and it's all kind of out of hand with it, honestly. But as far as I'm hearing from everybody, the price on them is skyrocketed, and I remember
everything is. I mean, what's not skyrocketed?
I mean, even just a couple years ago, they were a lot cheaper than they are. I heard from a couple people that possibly by summertime they could be $180 plus a tire or something like that. Yeah, that's crazy to me. But I mean, when I first started, we were buying used ones for $20-$25 a piece that were in pretty good shape. So
same when 05 was my rookie season of mod, and man, I never bought one new tire the whole year. I mean, I was hitting up McWilliams or Billy Vaughn and buying some of their used stuff because those guys are bolting on new stuff every week. So, hey, I just go over and get some of their good stuff. And
we did the same exact thing, and we actually kind of were on the other end of it last year. We had a bunch in the barn next door, and I just thought, man, I'll put them up online and see if anything happens with them. And some kid, I believe, from Illinois or something like that wound up, because they were still in pretty good shape, because
get some use out of them.
Yeah, with the current people we got helping us out, we were able to keep pretty good rubber on the car. So he came down and took every one we had. And that meant we didn't have to dispose of them or whatever. Right. So that's always good.
Put a little money in your pocket so you could go buy some new stuff.
Exactly.
So this year is you're going to be primarily at Lawrenceburg again. Or are you going to try to hit around a little bit?
Honestly, I really don't know. Like I said, with my son starting a race, that's going to be a Friday deal.
Right.
And then just it's probably going to come down to how much a lot of this stuff costs too, because if you would turn around and look behind you, I don't have any tires really left from last year. So, I mean, it's going to be some factors of I haven't even really priced fuel or anything yet. It's gonna have to make sense a little bit too, or whatnot. Sure. I mean, I know it sounds stupid, but for us to out here where my dad's place is here in Indiana, I mean, Lawrenceburg's definitely closer, obviously, and you get on the highway and start hammering over to Florence, and I can get back and forth to Lawrenceburg a couple of times before
you can get to Florence.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but on a tank of gas.
I think I asked you this earlier. You guys didn't always race out of this shop, right?
No, we've
So you guys spent majority of your time here.
Yeah, I think my dad and my stepmom bought this house and property in 2004, and they built the garage shortly after that, a year or so later, something like that. I can't remember exactly, but and then the previous houses before that, we were working out of some smaller garages and stuff for sure. This is one of the reasons why I've kept racing too, is because I've got a place to keep it. I mean, I've got a little 1-car garage at my house, and modified wouldn't fit too good in it most likely.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're gonna take a break. We talked about doing 2 20-minute segments, so we're gonna probably take a break. During that break, we're probably gonna take some pictures of some of these hot rods and some of these toys you got around here. I don't know, those could end up on here somewhere as well. So
yeah, there's no shortage of stuff in here for sure.
Right. So all right, cool. Well, we'll I guess throw the yellow, take a quick break. We'll come back, and there'll be a part 2 on YouTube channel, Slingin Dirt Media, right after this.